Ahoy! Hello and welcome to another video. Last week we discussed some verbs that are related to memory. This week we're also going to look at some verbs. And as some of you suggested, this time I want to talk about the verbs related to speaking and talking. In English you also have several verbs expressing this. To talk, to speak, say, narrate, etc. And Czech is no exception. In this video I'm going to mention the verbs mluvit, hovořit, povídat si, bavit se, říkat or říct, povídat or povědět, vyprávět a vykládat. I separated them into two groups and you will see why. Jdeme na to! Ahoj! Vítejte na mém kanále Czech by Zuzka, kde vám pomocí angličtiny vysvětluju českou gramatiku. Let's take a look at the first group of verbs. Mluvit, hovořit, povídat si, bavit se. What do these verbs have in common? They all can be translated as speak to one another, for example. Of course, there is a slight difference, sometimes not that slight. We could say that when we use these verbs, it means that we speak with more people, at least two people, and there is interaction. They're mutual, they're multilateral. People talk to each other. I'm also going to mention what are the typical cases that these verbs go with. Because these verbs are somewhat similar, I'm going to first introduce them one by one, and then I will give you examples, and I will also tell you if we can replace one with another and what's going to happen if we do. The first verb I want to mention is the common verb mluvit. Mluvit is to speak, which is a very neutral verb. You can use it in any context, if it fits the grammar. The second verb is hovořit. Hovořit is also translated as speak, but it's quite formal, almost to the point that it's becoming archaic. Hovořit. When I say formal, I mean that we would usually use it in a formal context. Maybe if you read the news that the president spoke with the minister, you could use this verb. People might use it in spoken Czech, but it's less and less common. You can also use it for speaking to one another.
Vy jste spolu nehovořili?
Hovořili?
Nehovořili.
Ale hovořili.
Ale nehovořili.
Mluvit and hovořit are interchangeable when it comes to the grammatical context, but like I said, mluvit is neutral. Hovořit is very formal. But if you want to say, for example, that you speak several languages, you could say hovořím 3 jazyky, mluvím 3 jazyky. Prezident hovořil s ministrem. Prezident mluvil s ministrem. There is only one difference. Hovořit is very formal, almost archaic. Now, the next verb is povídat si. Povídat si in this group will have si as part of it. It doesn't have to be there, but in this group it will be acting as a reflexive verb, povídat si, which means to chat, to talk informally. What I mean by informally is that people will be in an informal situation. A group of friends will get together and chat, just like when you use the verb chat in English. It's also more relaxed. You're sharing all kinds of stories. You're not feeling stressed. Povídat si is identical to the verb bavit se. Bavit se also means to chat, and it's also informal. It means to have a conversation. In other contexts, it also means to have fun, as in to be entertained, but we're not gonna speak about this meaning here. So if you talk about you chatting with someone, you can say povídala jsem si s kamarádkou, bavila jsem se s kamarádkou. Know this, si, se, they're both reflexive in this context, both informal. Now, what is common for this group of these 4 verbs? Like I mentioned, they are multilateral, means there are at least 2 people involved, there is an exchange of information. So the typical cases these verbs go with would be the instrumental and the preposition s. So for example, mluvit s někým, o něčem, o plus locative. To speak with someone about something. You don't have to have both of them. You can have simply mluvit s někým nebo mluvit o něčem, o někom. To speak about someone too. but they often appear together. Mluvit s někým o něčem, to talk with someone about something. And you can use it for all these 4 verbs. The only difference will be the degree of formality. So you have to be aware of the context. Let's see some examples. For example, I want to say, I spoke with you about it. I spoke to you about it. Mluvil jsem o tom s tebou. Mluvil jsem o tom s tebou. You use mluvil jsem, it's neutral. You don't have to worry about anything. If you want to sound more formal, you can say hovořil jsem o tom s tebou. You won't use it that much in spoken Czech, but if for any reason you want to sound extremely proper, you can say hovořil jsem o tom s tebou. You can say povídal jsem si o tom s tebou. And it will be informal. It means I chatted, I discussed this with you, we had a informal chat. Or bavil jsem se o tom s tebou. Bavil jsem se o tom s tebou. The same thing as the previous one, it's also informal. As a native speaker, I feel a slight difference between povídat si a bavit se. Povídat si is really relaxed and really pleasant. It's that kind of verb that you want to use when you get together with someone you like and you're chatting. Bavit se can also be informal, but it also simply means that you had a discussion about this. It doesn't mean that it brought you any pleasant feeling. I mentioned earlier that you can also talk about speaking several languages, for example. So if you want to say, I speak 3 languages or I speak fluently, then you can use mluvit and hovořit. Mluvím česky, hovořím česky. I speak Czech. Mluvím 3 jazyky, hovořím 3 jazyky. I speak 3 languages. Mluvím plynně, hovořím plynně. I speak fluently. In this case you use mluvit or hovořit. You don't say bavím se. You could say povídáme si česky if you want to emphasize I have a group of Czech friends and we chat in Czech. Povídáme si česky, bavíme se česky. Let's see the other category. In the second group, we're going to take a look at these verbs. Říkat or říct, povídat or povědět without si, vyprávět a vykládat. I put them in a different category because these ones are more unilateral. You say something to someone. It doesn't mean that the other person is gonna say something back to you. So these verbs are typically connected with the dative and accusative. You say something to someone. Něco někomu. Říkat and říct both mean say and tell. In Czech we don't make a difference. What is different is that říkat is imperfective. You can say I'm saying. The present tense would be with říkat, říkám. And říct is a perfective verb that can only refer to the future and the past, not the present. Povídat or povědět both mean to say or tell. Povědět is quite formal. It means more to inform someone. It's not used so much anymore. Povídat is related to povídat si, in the sense that it means to chat. You use it in an informal context, and it is in many ways interchangeable with říct or říkat. You can say something to someone. Some people use this a lot every time they want to say, and he said this and this. A on povídal. They even say povídal, they shorten it instead of saying povídal, a on povídal. Then we have the verb vyprávět, which means to tell a story, to narrate. It doesn't have to be a story specifically, but it means that you are saying something, it's going to take some time. Vyprávět. And finally, vykládat. Vykládat is a specific verb that we use often when you invent something that is not true. You can use this verb, vykládat. Vykládat also means to interpret something. So if a teacher explains a certain topic, like me, I could say vykládám tady rozdíly mezi slovesy mluvit a vykládat. Vykládat means to explain or interpret, but many times in informal Czech we use it as to tell a story, invent a story mostly. We're gonna look at some examples. If you want to say, I already told you, you can say, Už jsem ti to říkal, or už jsem ti to řekl. There's a small difference. Už jsem ti to říkal. There is a circumstance, meaning you should know this. I've already told you. So why are you acting like this? Už jsem ti to řekl focuses on the result. I told you, I'm not gonna tell you again. Or that's the whole story. Už jsem ti to řekl. Už jsem ti to řekl. You could also say, už jsem ti to povídal. Už jsem ti to povídal is very informal. I already told you everything. Už jsem ti to pověděl also works. Although not many people would say it, it sounds a little bit outdated. Už jsem ti to vyprávěl, meaning that you already told this story, you already explained how this happened. Remember, vyprávět means it takes some time to say, to share all the details. Už jsem ti to vykládal, also possible. If you want to say, I already explained, už jsem ti to vykládal. Maybe this option is the least common together with pověděl. So it is typical to use the dative and the accusative. Something to someone, but you can also use the locative case that someone can speak about something or about someone. But you will not include the instrumental because remember this group is unilateral, you're just passing the information. O něčem or o někom. You can say, Honza o něm říkal, že je lenoch. Honza said about him that he is lazy. Lenoch is a lazy person. A little bit informal, but we use this a lot. He's a slacker. Honza o něm říkal, že je lenoch. You could say Honza o něm řekl, mention this information. You could also say Honza o něm vyprávěl. Maybe he was sharing lots of details. Honza o něm vykládal, že je lenoch. And if you say vykládal, it may sound like this is not true. Maybe he was making this up. So you can have the locative case, but not the instrumental here. So this is the theory. And now before we move on to the exercises, which you will do on your own, I would like to translate a few sentences together. The first one is, tell me all about it. Someone returns from a trip or from a date and you're curious, so you say, tell me all about it. The perfect verb would be povídej. No tak povídej. You could also say vyprávěj. Vyprávěj, emphasizing that you want to hear all the details. If you say mluv, it would be just like in English, speak. Mluv, very strict. Řekni mi to is simply tell me. It sounds like a short piece of information. What about what did you say? What did you say? We have several options. You could say co jsi řekl? Maybe you want to know what was your answer. Co jsi řekl? Co jsi říkal? Co jsi říkal? I want to know a little bit more because říkat is imperfective. What were you saying? But also if I didn't hear someone correctly. Co jsi říkal? Co jsi povídal? Also pretty common. You're just talking nonsense. We can say říkáš nesmysly, povídáš nesmysly. A little bit more informal. And the perfect verb is vykládáš nesmysly because vykládáš often means it's not true. So you're inventing nonsense, vykládáš nesmysly. I didn't speak to anybody. S nikým jsem nemluvil. That's neutral. S nikým jsem si nepovídal, meaning I didn't chat with anyone. S nikým jsem se nebavil. Also, it was informal. S nikým jsem nehovořil. Nehovořil would be a very formal Czech. And the last sentence. Grandma was telling a story. She was telling a tale. Babička vyprávěla pohádku. That's the most typical. You can even add babička nám vyprávěla pohádku. She was telling us a tale. Babička povídala pohádku. It's also possible. Babička nám říkala pohádku. It would work, but it's not that typical. I understand why this is confusing because you have so many options. Some of them are the same or so similar. And some of them don't work that well together. So I hope I explained the small nuances and now you're ready for an exercise. All my video courses that are available on Udemy are 30% off until the end of March. So if there is any video course that you're missing in your collection, now is your chance to buy them. Just use the discount code 30. You'll find all the links on my website czechbyzuzka.com/video-courses. This time we are going to take a look at 5 sentences, and your task is to choose the verb that best fits the context. Sometimes there is more than one option possible, so keep that in mind. Pause the video, and now it's time to check it. Číslo 1. Já jsem ti to říkala. This is the only correct option. If you want to say, I already told you, or I warned you in a way, you will definitely go for this option. Já jsem ti to říkala. Já jsem ti to říkala. Číslo 2. Už jsme spolu mluvili. Už jsme se spolu bavili. These 2 options are correct. Bavili jsme se, už jsme se spolu bavili means that it's in informal context. We already chatted, we already had a chat together. If hovořili was one of the options, it would be also a good one, although very formal. Už jsme spolu hovořili. Číslo 3. Rád mluvím se zákazníky, rád si povídám se zákazníky. Again, there is a small difference. Rád si povídám se zákazníky is more friendly. You have a friendly chat with your customers. Whereas rád mluvím se zákazníky simply indicates that you speak to them. So povídám si fits the translation better. Číslo 4. Co to o mě Honza vypráví? Nebo co to o mě Honza vykládá? Vykládá is perfect, vypráví is also good, but vykládá would be probably the most typical one. A poslední, číslo 5. Nikomu to neříkej. Nikomu to neříkej, simply don't share this with anyone. Nikomu to nevykládej could also work, but it would include all the details. Don't say everything I just said. To je ode mě všechno. Děkuji, že jste se dívali. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Uvidíme se za týden. Ahoj!